My name is Margaret Walsh, and at 72 years old, I thought I knew exactly who I was. A mother, a grandmother, a woman who'd spent 48 years building a life with the man I married when I was barely 24. I was wrong about all of it. The story I'm about to tell you, it still doesn't feel entirely real. Even now, months later, when I wake up in my small apartment overlooking the harbor, I sometimes forget. Then I remember, and the betrayal washes over me fresh, like cold water. But there's more to this story than betrayal. There's also something I never expected to find at my age: strength I didn't know I had, and a kind of freedom I'd never imagined. Let me start at the beginning. It was a Tuesday morning in March when my son Daniel called. I remember because Tuesdays were my grocery days, and I was making my list, writing down the items in my careful handwriting: milk, bread, the special coffee my husband Richard liked. "Mom," Daniel said, and his voice sounded tight, "I need to talk to you about something." Daniel was 43, married to a lovely woman named Beth, with 3 children who called me Nana. He was always so responsible, so measured. But that morning, something in his voice made my hand stop moving. Across the paper, "What is it, sweetheart?" There was a pause, a long one, the kind that makes your heart beat faster. "Beth and we're taking the kids to Disney World next month. Spring break. We've been saving up for 2 years." Another pause. "I wanted to tell you because, well, I wanted you to know we invited Dad to come with us." I smiled. "That's wonderful, honey. He'll love that. You know how he adores those kids." "Mom." His voice cracked slightly. "We didn't invite you." The words hung in the air between us. I stared at my grocery list, at Richard's special coffee written in blue ink. I don't understand. "I'm sorry, Mom. I really am. But Beth and I talked about it, and we think it would be better this way. The kids need time with Dad, and you can be kind of difficult sometimes." Difficult. The word settled into my chest like a stone. We talked for a few more minutes. I don't remember what I said. Something gracious, probably. Something that let Daniel off the hook, because that's what I always did. That's who Margaret Walsh was, the woman who made everything easier for everyone else. After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The March sunlight came through the window, warming the wood, and I thought about 48 years of marriage, 48 years of cooking Richard's favorite meals, of raising his son, of supporting his career while I set aside my own dreams of teaching piano. Difficult. Richard came home that evening smelling of his secretary's perfume. I'd noticed it before, that floral scent that wasn't mine, but I'd always pushed the thought away. Good wives didn't think such things. Good wives trusted. "Margaret," he said, kissing my cheek in that distracted way he'd perfected over the decades. "What's for dinner?" I served him pot roast, his favorite. I watched him eat, this man I'd loved since I was a girl, and I saw him clearly for perhaps the first time. The way he never quite looked at me anymore. The way he took everything I did as his due, expected and unremarkable. Daniel called. "Today," I said quietly. Richard was scrolling through his phone. "About the Disney trip." He looked up then, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance at being caught. "Oh, yes, that." He cleared his throat. "It'll be nice to spend time with the grandkids, don't you think? Why didn't they invite me?" Richard set down his fork. He was 68, still handsome in that silver-haired way some men achieve. Distinguished, people said. Successful. He looked at me with something like pity. "Margaret, come on. You know how you can be. Always fussing over everyone, making comments about what the kids eat, correcting Beth's parenting. They just want a relaxing vacation." Each word was a small cut. "I see," I said. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to Richard in our king-size bed, listening to him snore, and I thought about my life. All the small sacrifices that had seemed like love. All the times I'd made myself smaller so others could be bigger, and I made a decision. The next morning, I made an appointment with our family lawyer, Thomas Chen. Thomas had handled our will, our house purchase, everything legal in our lives. For 20 years, he was surprised to see me alone. "Margaret," he said warmly. "What can I do for you?" "I need to understand something about our credit cards," I said. "If something were to happen to Richard, God forbid, what access would I have?" Thomas explained it all very carefully. "We had 3 cards. One was mine, technically, though Richard paid it. The other 2 were Richard's, but I was listed as an authorized user on the main account." He walked me through the finances, and I listened with the clarity I never had before. "And our will?" I asked. He pulled out the documents. Everything was joint, as it should be after 48 years. Except, there was a recent change. One Richard had made 3 months ago without telling me. A change that left our summer house, the one I'd inherited from my parents, to Daniel instead of being part of our joint estate. "He said you'd agreed," Thomas said, looking uncomfortable. I smiled that gracious smile I'd perfected over decades. Of course, I must have forgotten, but I hadn't forgotten. I'd never known. Over the next 2 weeks, I planned very carefully. I was patient, methodical. 48 years of running a household teaches you organization, and I was nothing if not organized. I scheduled my surgery for the exact week of Daniel's Disney trip. I'd been putting off my knee replacement for 2 years, and suddenly, the timing seemed perfect. I booked it, told Richard, watched him struggle between his grandson's vacation and his wife's surgery. "Can't you reschedule?" he asked. "The doctor says this is the only opening for months," I lied smoothly. "But don't worry, you should go to Disney. I'll be fine." He looked relieved. That relief told me everything I needed to know. The day before they left, I did something I'd never done before. I packed Richard's suitcase for him, like I always did, but this time, I went through his wallet. I took photos of every card, every document, every piece of his carefully organized life. I felt like a spy in my own home, and tucked in the billfold, I found a receipt. Dinner at an expensive restaurant downtown. A date when Richard had told me he was working late. 2 meals. Champagne. I put the receipt back carefully. My hands didn't even shake. They left on a Saturday morning. Daniel picked up Richard, and I stood in the driveway waving, my cane in hand for dramatic effect. My knee was genuinely bad, but not as bad as I was pretending. I waved until the car disappeared. Then I went inside and called Thomas Chen. "Thomas, I need to update my will today, if possible." He came to the house. We spent 3 hours going through everything. I left the house, my parents' house, to a conservation trust. I left my personal savings, money I'd inherited from my mother, to a women's shelter. I left specific items to friends, to my favorite nephew, to everyone except Richard and Daniel. "Margaret," Thomas said carefully. "I have to ask, I'm of sound mind," I said calmly. "I'm simply making sure my wishes are clear." After he left, I went to the bank. I withdrew half of our savings, my legal half, and opened a new account at a different bank. I took Richard's main credit card, the one I was authorized on, and I made a decision. I called the number on the back and reported it stolen. They canceled it immediately. Then I drove myself to the hospital for my surgery. I'd arranged everything: rides home, a home healthcare aide, meal delivery. I didn't need Richard. I'd never really needed him, I realized. I'd just been taught that I should. The surgery went well. I was in the hospital for 2 days, swimming in and out of pain medication, and during that time my phone stayed blessedly silent. On the 3rd day, the calls started. Daniel first. "Mom, there's something wrong with Dad's credit card. It's not working. Did you cancel it?" I was groggy from pain medication, but clear enough. "Oh dear, it must be a mistake. I'm sure the bank can sort it out." Then Richard, angry. "Margaret, what the hell did you do? I can't pay for anything. We're stranded at the hotel. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is?" "I'm sorry, darling," I said in my sweetest voice. "I had to report the card stolen when I noticed some suspicious charges. That expensive restaurant downtown, when you said you were working late." Silence. Long and profound. "We'll talk when I get home," he said finally, his voice cold. "Yes," I said. "We will." But I didn't wait for him to come home. By the time Richard and Daniel returned from their ruined vacation, I was already moved out. My nephew helped me pack while they were gone. We took my clothes, my mother's china, my books, my piano. 48 years fit into a moving truck more easily than you'd think. I left a note on the kitchen table, next to the pot roast recipe I'd made 1,000 times. Richard, I've decided I need some space. I'm staying with my sister for a while. We'll talk soon. Margaret. It was the most passive-aggressive thing I'd ever written, and I loved it. My sister Janet lived 2 states away. I didn't go there. Instead, I used my savings to rent a small apartment overlooking the harbor in our town. 2 bedrooms, big windows, a view of the water. I bought new furniture, not expensive things, just things I liked. A blue velvet chair, plants, books. I hired Thomas Chen to file for legal separation. Richard called 47 times the first day. I didn't answer. Daniel called too, his voice bewildered on the voicemails. Mom, what are you doing? This isn't like you. We need to talk about this. But I didn't want to talk. I wanted them to sit with their confusion, their inconvenience, their suddenly complicated lives. I wanted them to know what it felt like to be left behind. On the 5th day, I finally answered when Richard called. Where are you? He demanded. I'm somewhere safe, I said. Somewhere I can be difficult in peace. Margaret, stop being dramatic. Come home. We'll work this out. Work what out, exactly? My voice was calm. Your affair, the fact that you changed our will without telling me, the fact that our son doesn't want me on a family vacation. It's not I'm not having an affair. It was just dinners, just conversation, just betrayal, I said. Just 48 years of me disappearing until I became invisible. You're being crazy. I hung up. The legal separation was surprisingly simple. Richard was furious about the will changes, but there was nothing he could do. They were legal. My money, my choices. Thomas found other irregularities too. Money. Richard had moved around without consulting me. Investments made in his name only. We'd built our life together, but somehow, over the decades, it had become his life, and I'd been a supporting character in it. I started teaching piano from my apartment. Just a few students at first, children from the neighborhood. The music filled my days with something I'd forgotten I loved. My hands, arthritic but still capable, moved over the keys, and I remembered the girl I'd been before I became Mrs. Walsh. My nephew visited often. So did Janet, who drove down every other weekend with homemade soup and stories and understanding. Real friends emerged. 2 women from my book club. Neighbors I'd known for years, but never really connected with because I'd been too busy being Richard's wife. Daniel came to see me 6 weeks after I moved out. He stood in my small apartment, looking uncomfortable among my blue chairs and thriving plants. Mom, I don't understand. Why didn't you just talk to us? I poured him tea, Earl Grey, which he'd loved since he was a boy. I did talk, Daniel, for 48 years. But somewhere along the way, everyone stopped listening. We didn't mean to hurt you, I know. That's almost worse, isn't it? That you could exclude me so casually. That your father could have dinners with another woman and not even hide it well. That I could disappear from my own life, and no one noticed until it became inconvenient for them. He was quiet for a long time. What do you want, Mom? I want to be Margaret, I said simply. Not just your mother, not just Richard's wife. Just me. Can I still see you? Can the kids? I smiled then, genuinely. Of course. You're always welcome here, all of you, as long as you see me. The real me, not just the woman who exists to make your life easier. Richard came once, 3 months after I left. He looked older, diminished somehow. He sat in my blue velvet chair and looked around at my small, bright life. This is really what you want? He asked. This tiny apartment? Living alone? Yes, I said. And I meant it. I miss you, he said. And there might have been sincerity in it. You miss what I did for you, corrected gently. That's not the same thing. We could try therapy. We could fix this. I thought about it, really considered it. 48 years deserved consideration. But then I thought about waking up in my apartment with the harbor view, making coffee just the way I liked it, playing piano at midnight if I wanted to, answering to no one. I don't want to fix it, I said. I want to be free. He left, looking broken, and I felt a pang of something, not quite guilt, but not quite triumph either. Just sadness for all the years we'd both wasted pretending to be happy. I'm 72 years old now. My knee healed beautifully. I teach piano 4 days a week. I have students who are 7 and students who are 70. I'm taking a watercolor class on Thursdays. I eat cereal for dinner sometimes, just because I can. I stay up late reading. I travel small trips, just me and a suitcase, to places I've always wanted to see. My grandchildren visit. I take them for ice cream and let them eat all the sprinkles they want. Beth and I are building something new, something honest. She admitted she'd felt pressured by Richard to exclude me from Disney, that she'd regretted it immediately. Daniel is trying. We have coffee every Sunday, and slowly, we're learning to talk to each other not as mother and son with all those complicated expectations, but as two people who care about each other and are trying to do better. Richard and I are divorced now. He's dating someone new, the woman from the restaurant. I hope she knows her own worth better than I knew mine. People in my building know me as the piano teacher in 3B, the woman with the laugh that echoes in the stairwell, who always has time to talk, who seems so content. They don't know about the betrayal, the canceled credit card, the will I changed in the middle of the night. They don't know I'm someone's revenge story. They just know me as Margaret. Finally, at 72, just Margaret, and that feels like the happiest ending I could have written. Sometimes kindness to yourself looks like cruelty to others. Sometimes love means walking away. Sometimes the biggest betrayal is the one you commit against yourself by staying too long in a life that makes you invisible. I woke up. I canceled the card. I changed my will. I disappeared. And in disappearing from their lives, I finally appeared in my own. That's my story. True in all the ways that matter.